With the ongoing reopening of Gulf fisheries, we're excited that fishermen can go back to work and Americans can confidently and safely enjoy Gulf seafood once again. We're certainly going to enjoy it here at the White House. In fact, we had some yesterday.
President eating Gulf seafood at the White House. By the end of the week, he'll be down in the Gulf eating more Gulf seafood.
And who dat at the White House today? The New Orleans Saints. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Zach Wolf.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest in politics, everything you need to know. For even more, it's twitter.com/Rick Klein. And Mr. Wolf, kick us off today and this August Monday.
Top line number one, Obama v. Clinton. Nobody thought much of it back in June when former President Bill Clinton endorsed Andrew Romanoff in the Colorado Senate race, but things have changed. Romanoff has come on strong, and he might do well. He might even beat the White House preferred candidate, Michael Bennet, current senator.
This has been a bloody battle in Colorado. The New York Times with a couple of stories very tough on Senator Bennet recently. This is the kind of race that would not be on the radar screen in a normal year. This, of course, not a normal year. Any kind of establishment backing can cut the other way. President Obama versus President Clinton. It doesn't get any more delicious than that. And speaking of big battles, it's Palin versus the NRA. This is the matchup in Georgia, where Sarah Palin's latest mama grizzly, Karen Handel, is up against former Congressman Nathan Deal, who has the backing of the NRA, and Mike Huckabee and Newt Gingrich, among others. And Sarah Palin chose this battle, and it ruffled some feathers in Georgia because this is not your traditional Tea Party type candidate. Karen Handel, more of a moderate, but does fit that other end of the profile, the mama grizzly profile. And Sarah Palin has something on the line, and it looks like Karen Handel going in pretty good shape tomorrow.
In good shape, but with those endorsements from Gingrich, certainly, and Huckabee was there yesterday. Sarah Palin is down for Handel today, so this will be a top-line race for sure. Next up, Connecticut Smackdown. Linda McMahon looks good in Connecticut with a new Quinnipiac University poll showing her up by 22 points. Rob Simmons, the former congressman, had tried to write a wrestling script of his own, and after a zombie campaign maneuver where he basically retired his campaign, brought it back online, but that does not appear like it's going to work. Rick? I still thought it was the WWF.
That's right. That dates us a little bit. It's the WWE. And speaking of that, Vince McMahon came out publicly late last week and talked to the Associated Press to try to defend what wrestling has done and what it stood for. I'm not sure that necessarily works great for the campaign to have him out there toward the end because it brings up some memories. But as you say, Linda McMahon looks likely to win that primary up in Connecticut. And finally today, holiday in Spain. And the trip, the much heralded, much criticized trip of Michelle Obama and her daughter and some friends over to Spain over the weekend is now wrapped up, but the political fallout we're still hearing about, this has just been cable catnip over the last couple of days about five-star hotels and big entourages and fancy meals and wines and all that. Can't she just get a vacation, Zach?
It's vacation politics, Rick. It's August in Washington. You know, the Obamas, they were going to go to Maine right after Michelle Obama said everybody should go to the Gulf. They were forced to go to the Gulf. Well, I'm sure they'd love to go to the Gulf. They'll be there next week, but, you know, this is what we talk about in Washington in August, right?
That's exactly right. And speaking of Washington in August, a specialist on the subject today, the triumphant return of Marie Cox from GQ, a great friend of Top Line from way back, from the way back.
Actually something of an expert on August in Washington. My novel, Dog Days, actually takes place in the month of August in Washington, where I have to say the reason why we talk about other people's vacations during August in Washington is we all wish we were on them because it really is an unpleasant place to be, although the parking is much easier and you can get restaurant reservations.
You can eat anywhere. Yeah. But let's talk about Michelle Obama. She has taken a lot of flack over this trip. This is a top-notch vacation. Obviously, there's some taxpayer element whenever you talk about trips by the First Lady because of security and the like. But isn't this just politically tone-deaf to take a trip like this in an economic time like this?
Well, it is somewhat politically tone-deaf. But I also have to say that if you rewind, 8 years, you look at what liberals talked about when Bush was taking his vacations. I mean, the scripts are almost identical. I personally feel like for one thing, there are two big differences. One is if you're president, you don't really get a day off, no matter where you are. You are going to be working. It's not like you can be like, don't hand me the nuclear football right now. Like, I'm on vacation.
I'm surfing.
And then so it's not like Bush ever was really on vacation. And the second thing is Michelle Obama is First Lady, which is not a job. I mean, I think she works very hard in the ways that first ladies are kind of expected to work, but she was not elected. And she does not have a constitutionally defined office. So basically, she's always on vacation, kind of. You know, like whatever she chooses to do is something that she's choosing to do. So I think the only part of this that really makes sense to complain about is perhaps the cost. But the Obamas have made the argument that they're covering a lot of this themselves.
Right.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think the numbers have yet to be revealed, but I'm sure that there'll be people looking into it.
Well, and perhaps more politically damaging. I mean, of course, George Bush had his golf ban towards the end of his presidency.
Right.
He didn't go golfing, and President Obama has a golf habit at
That's
this point.
true. I mean, I guess if anyone who's convinced by that argument is already going to have strong feelings one way or the other. There's no one who's going to be on the fence and be like, well, you know, I don't know how I feel about Obama. Oh, the golfing, you're right. I don't like him.
These are things that we get to talk about. It's hard to imagine them ever really convincing voters one way or the other.
Right.
I think that's right.
Right.
Speaking of convincing voters, Sarah Palin out on the trail. We love Sarah Palin on this program.
I mean,
this is what this program is meant for. Sarah Palin trips down.
I know we're not supposed to give money to candidates, but if she runs for president, I think that the top line political nation.
And she's invited as always. We always mention that when we talk about her. But she's down in Georgia.
Right.
Another one of these mama grizzlies. She is putting together quite a brood of these candidates.
Grizzlies.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess when Bush warned us about the human-animal hybrids, this is the thing that he was talking about. I find the whole mama grizzly kind of paradigm really interesting. As someone who considers myself a pretty strong feminist, I like for women to be involved in public dialogue and public discourse. There's really nothing wrong with it, and I think in some ways this is the thing that it was very hard for reporters and especially progressive reporters to talk about during the campaign, which is that there is actually, I think, a really positive side to Palin's visibility, which is like this idea that you can be a strong, tough woman and your politics can be all over the map. In fact, your politics can be somewhat incoherent, like Sarah Palin's. But again, the more women you get involved in politics, the larger the dialogue is. It's a good thing. I can't say anything bad about it, except for the individual policies in politics themselves.
Well, but as a strong feminist, where do you fall on the Linda McMahon Connecticut race? Democrats have hit her with these strange, odd videos of some strange activity at WWE.
I think that she would be getting those strange, odd videos no matter if she was a man or a woman. I mean, I think that the WWE just traffics in theater. And so, anyone who comes with that as their resume and then that is, in fact, their family business, you're going to get some weirdness there.
But is that legitimate? I mean, it strikes me in some ways, as you remember a couple of years ago when Jim Webb's novels were getting attacked for racy sex scenes. I mean, this was fiction. And the same thing with...
This is entertainment.
This is entertainment. You know what you're getting with wrestling.
I think that there's plenty to criticize. I think, as with Sarah Palin, I think you can, if you did nothing except criticize, Linda McMahon's, actual policies, you would have a lot there. It would be less interesting television. If you make for less interesting ads, you probably have fewer national reporters covering it. But there's a lot there. And I think when it comes right down to it, I have perhaps, a somewhat not completely founded faith in voters' ability to look at policies and politics and vote for the person that they think will best represent what they want. Sometimes that has to do with an image, sometimes that has to do with a feeling of amorphous change.
Right.
And sometimes it might have to do with someone's perceived sort of glamour or lack of glamour. But I think that the voters in Connecticut could be pretty informed when they pull that lever, and it's not going to be just about WWE versus the world.
Another big smackdown, Obama v. Clinton in Colorado. Now, this is just delicious because you have President Obama and President Clinton endorsing the other candidates in this Democratic primary race. It could go either way.
It could go either way. I think what's interesting is, of course, this is only fascinating to us. And I also, as I was saying earlier, I think the only person in the world who really sees this as an Obama versus Clinton matchup is Clinton. He wants that matchup. He wants that to be the headline. He wants this. He would personally consider this a victory, I think. And whatever he does besides smoke a cigar these days to congratulate himself, well.
But it does get at something larger. I mean, in all likelihood, President Clinton is likely to be a more sought-after presence in the key districts that make a difference in House races than President Obama, don't you think? There's a lot of places where President Obama can't campaign where Bill Clinton can.
I think that's true. I think that that's more of a... I'm not going to say an accident of history, but it's where we are with popularity of incumbents, and it's where we are with district maps looking like what they do. That this particular president is not going to work as well as the president that can come across as more moderate, can come across as more of the people, and doesn't have like the current baggage that Obama has. That Obama brings with him the current unemployment rate, the current economic state, everything that's bad that's happening now. Clinton is free of all that, and so voters are not confronted with it when he stands next to a candidate.
And of course, when Hillary runs for second term in in 8 or 12 years, it'll be Obama that's campaigning in all those places that the Clintons.
Casting for just a little bit.
Just a little bit. All right, Anna Marie Cox, a pleasure having you back on the program, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. Anna from GQ. Check out her latest interview with Governor Schwarzenegger in a couple weeks. Excellent, excellent.